titled African Spirit Series, created in 2018, and it is a silver gelatin print. In the background appears a figure which is the artist himself dressed as a black man, posing as the boxer Muhammad Ali, which is an important figure as he fought for black people's rights. He is wearing white socks and shorts from the brand Everlast, which is popularly known as a boxing brand. Fosso has long arrows pierced all around his body and is standing in the middle of the image with no objects to see around. Even if his eyes are closed, he appears to be relieved, and the lighting gives the figure a more personal and intimate presence. The balance and contrast adds value to the image because it allows Fosso's illuminated body to stand out, while the simplicity of his clothing prevents distraction and directs full attention to his posture and expression.
For Samulfos art piece, we're using a mix of frameworks to analyze the image because it's really direct visual, but it's also clearly uses objects and a staging that feels intentional. First, we are using a formal analysis framework. That means we're focusing on what we can actually see, the lighting, the contrast, the composition, the pose, and how the figure is arranged inside the frame. Basically, how the visual design shapes the experience of the photograph. Second, we're also using a symbolic approach, not just to jump to the meaning, but to treat certain details as important visuals, signs we should pay attention to later. In this image, the arrows and the boxing gear stand out immediately, so they're going to matter when we move beyond description. And third, we use a contextual lens as part of our method. The guidance we're using describes looking at the historical or social context alongside the formal and symbolic details. So we keep in mind this for the full analysis. In this photograph, we see a single figure standing of someone alone against a clear light background. There's nothing else in the setting besides that person, so the image feels very focused and controlled to that person. It's like a studio and it portrays directly to the person. The figure is standing tall, it's centered in the frame with their hand positions behind their back. Their chest is open and exposed, and several arrows are visibly piercing the body. The arrows create sharp diagonal lines that cut across the figure and immediately pull the viewer's attention. The pose, as mentioned before, is still and it's upright. The head is tilted upwards and the face looks calm and composed rather than a defensive way, especially because the body isn't turned away and the arms aren't raised to block anything. The overall posture feels steady, even though the body shows signs of injury. Clothing, the figure is also dressed in a boxing style gear. It can be clearly seen using boxing shorts, and the waistband includes the word Everlast, which is a known boxing gear company, and also the classic tall boxing shoes, which bring forth the boxing gear athletic that we're looking at. The lighting, it's bright and clear. The highlights and shadows make the body form very defined, and because the background is play and light, the contrast make the figure stand out and strongly. The composition stays simple. It's one subject, it's minimal background, and a full body view that makes the post and the arrows impossible to ignore.
When looking at this photograph for the first time, the first thing that caught my attention were the arrows piercing through the body, and it created a sense of tension or discomfort. And then I looked at the rest of the photograph, like the shorts and everything else. Did not know who this was until I looked it up and found that it was Muhammad Ali, portrayed by Simon Fosso. What we can tell from this photograph, it uses strong contrast and value. Since it's in black and white, the lighting highlights the muscles of the body, making the figure look very solid, almost like a sculpture. So the emphasis on form from the body makes the body appear powerful, even though it's also being wounded. And the arrows can be a way to represent strength, and it creates an interesting contrast between strength, power, and vulnerability. So, in terms of composition, it is very simple and centered, which creates a sense of balance and forces the viewer to only focus on the figure. There isn't much going on in the background, so the body, arrows, and the pose become the main focus. And the tilt of the head can be considered a way to represent resistance rather than defeat, as most people would think. In terms of interpretation, this looks more than just a portrait of Muhammad Ali. In here, it looks like Fosso is using self-portraiture as performance, transforming himself into a political figure and symbol of resistance. Even without knowing the details of Ali, this image clearly communicates ideas of struggle, strength, and identity. Since this work is part of Fosso's African Spirit series, it also connects a larger idea of reclaiming representation. Um, by embodying important black figures like himself, Fosso challenges how history is represented and who gets to be seen as powerful. Overall, I think elements such as contrast, balance, and emphasis work really well to support the deeper meaning of this photograph and make the message feel strong and intense.
The photograph is effective when communicating its message, as the white plain background, along with the strong light, focuses on seeing the figure's expression and clothes at first sight. Nothing appears to be in the background to avoid distractions and only pay attention to the pierced arrows in Fossil's body and the relieved face. Even with arrows pierced through his body, he doesn't look in pain, but rather peaceful. The arrows could be a sign of black people facing discrimination. The artist himself is dressed with boxing shorts as a black leader to represent power, recognition, and sacrifices along with struggles that black people went through in those times. The image is influential as well as significant due to the artist posing at the center to create an emotional and a feeling of sympathy.